It all started with a very simple idea. Tell the stories of how successful middle market CEOs made it to the corner office. I'm Brand Handley, founder and managing director of Resource Options International, or ROI. We're the USA's premier executive search firm focused exclusively on empowering middle market companies to attract, hire, and retain A players while transforming top executives' careers and lives. ROI's Into the Corner office is dedicated to discovering how middle market CEOs advance their career, and we're making these remarkable and sometimes quite unbelievable stories available to you for the very first time. Listen and learn about the challenges they've overcome, the interesting people they've met along the way, and the lessons learned that steered these executives' unique journey into a middle market corner office of their own. I know you enjoy these CEO stories as much as I've enjoyed recording them. So thank you for listening today. And if you like what you've heard, rate us on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. I'm looking forward to you joining me on the next great middle market CEO adventure into the corner office. Today, my guest is Justin Roethlingshoefer, co-founder of Own It Coaching, whose mission is to redeem the health of the world. Justin centers his performance-enhancing programs on a holistically integrated approach to health and performance. His core philosophy is that performance is realized when health is optimized, and we cannot separate physical, emotion, mental, and spiritual health. Own It Coaching is a coaching company that applies this health and performance philosophy to clients ranging from NHL stars to Fortune 500 executives to entrepreneurs, all looking to take the next step and level up. Justin has spoken at dozens of events, including the TEDx stage, and he's the host of the Sports Science and Recovery podcast and the Own It Show. Additionally, Justin is the author of 3 best-selling books, with more on the way. Whether in his coaching, writing, or speaking, Justin is well regarded for his ability to take complex, scientific topics and distill them into practical, applicable action steps. He has a rare combination of the ability to understand the science of sports performance, sleep, and recovery on a deep level, while being able to translate and distill the complex topics into a form others can actually use. He lives in South Florida with his wife Elise, who is also CEO of Own It. Justin, welcome into the corner office.
Brand, it's so great to be here. I just really appreciate you and your heart and your mission and everything that you've got going on. And so hopefully you're staying nice and warm in the cool Florida mornings here.
Well, ditto to you. And we were just talking before the podcast. I was in the 40s this morning, but we can't complain. The sun is out and it's going to be warming up to a beautiful day. You're down in South Florida today. Where do we find you?
Yes, sir. Down in Miami, Florida. So that's where home is, and it's just been a beautiful spot down here. We enjoy it. My wife and I are down in Coral Gables, and it's one of those places that you wake up and you can't decide whether you're going to go to the beach, go to the jungle, or just hang out in the city.
Well, gotta love it. And speaking of the cold, I know your life didn't begin in the warm climes. Tell us
No,
a little
sir.
bit about your early years, where you grew up, and what your early family life was like.
Yeah, so I was born and raised up in Northwest Canada. And so I don't know where the audience necessarily is in terms of geography, but we're talking Edmonton, Alberta. So Northwest Canada. So think about go over to like Washington and Montana and go straight north about, let's call it 12 hours. And so I say when I grew up, winter took about 7 to 8 months of the year, and I got a really short spring and fall, and about two to 3 months of summer. And so I still remember growing up there. It was not uncommon to have 3 to 4 weeks a year of like minus 40 degrees Fahrenheit and 5 to 6 feet of snow, and go to school in the dark, come home in the dark, just really short and cold days.
Well, I know it now. I know how much you love Florida and why.
That's right. That's right.
Brothers and sisters, tell us a little bit about your family.
Yeah, so I've got one sister. She's younger than I am, and she was actually a teacher. Unbelievable at curriculum, unbelievable at just managing people, teaching people, and we've since taken her into retirement of teaching the traditional way and brought her into Own It, our company, as our head of curriculum, and really making sure that she's using her skill sets in a little bit of a different way. So that's been really fun. And then obviously I've got both my parents who they love to come down to Florida and see us down here and escape the cold of Edmonton. So
They're still up in
um,
Edmonton. Yeah.
say that again. Oh
They're
yeah,
still
they're
up.
they're still there. They're still there. That's where that's home to them. Um, they've they're born and raised in that area. My mom a little bit more in rural Alberta, so grew up on the farm. And my dad was born in Vancouver but raised in Edmonton, and so it was. Yeah, it's been very unique in terms of leaving and now living down in the U.S. The only person in my family that really has ever left Edmonton or the Alberta area, and it's just been cool to be able to expose them to the American way of living and just having access to some of these different climates and just some of the advantages that living in the U.S. brings.
Is mom and dad still working? Do they still have a business or working for
Yeah,
others?
so my mom that's actually it's a great question, and I get that question a lot, is where did like the entrepreneurial bug for me come from? And to be honest with you, my mom still works. She's an orthodontist assistant, and my dad retired 3 years ago. He was a executive for Blue Cross, Alberta Blue Cross, so a branch of Blue Cross Blue Shield.
Yeah.
And the big thing for me was as a kid, I was just so loved and provided such amazing opportunities for um, for just making mistakes, I call it, and
Mm.
just allowing myself to explore and do the things that I was passionate about. And I've just had this entrepreneurial bug from a very young age, and I think when it first set in was just not wanting to follow the rules, wanting to bend the rules a little bit, wanting to explore deep levels of curiosity, wanting to know how things worked, wanting to challenge the status quo, wanting to find a more efficient way of doing things, wanted to find a better or different way of doing things. And so that was just always innately in me. And I think the fact that I just grew up in such a loving home, it gave me the confidence and the conviction to continue to keep chasing that entrepreneurial bug that I didn't know at that point was that, but ultimately turned into that over the course of time.
Did you grow up in a faith-based family, Christian family?
I did, yeah, a very, very Christian home. My mom is a viciously praying woman who was, and for all you praying moms out there, God bless you, because you're gonna change the course of your family lineage. So I encourage you to keep leaning into that, because I just say all the time the fact that my mom was praying for me so heavily before I was born, and just over me as a child and as a baby. I came to know God in a deep relationship with Jesus at the age of 7, and was able to hear the voice of God. And at 11 years old, actually, was the first time that I was able to articulate what it was that was coming, that I was hearing, and it was, Justin, you're going to redeem the health of the world. And
Mm.
that was really my first step into like what my true mission, purpose, and vision was. And it was really confirmed in me about a year later. Was a hockey player and was playing with 13, 14-year olds as a 12-year-old. And my dad said to me, son, talent will get you noticed, but consistency will get you paid. And it resonated so heavily with me, because I was like, man, how do I become the most consistent version of myself? What does this look like? And I just developed this deep obsession with wanting to know exactly what I needed to do, exactly what actions I needed to take, exactly what behaviors I needed to operate from, exactly what data I needed to drive these decisions on a day-to-day basis. And so I started to measure heart rate variability. I started to measure my heart rate when I was sleeping, heart rate
At
when
what
I was
age are we now? When was it?
I'm still 12 and 13. Like
Oh my gosh.
this is again like literally a month later. And I said, and I still remember, I said to my dad and mom for Christmas of my 13 year old Christmas year, I said, "Hey, I want a heart rate monitor for Christmas." And they said, "What, are you sick? Is something wrong? Like, hey, what's going on?" And I was like, "No, no, no, no. Don't worry about it. Like, this is something that is used for health and performance and understanding like your body better." And you have to remember, like, this is back in like 1999.
Yeah.
And so there, like a heart rate monitor is like $1,000,
Wow.
and where like today you can get them for 50, 60, $70, and and they're everywhere. And so I said, I need you guys just to pool your money. You can pool grandma and grandpa's money on both sides. You can pool my aunt and uncle's money. You can pool your guys' money for Christmas and birthdays. I just need this thing. Like, I need to be able to figure this stuff out. And so started to measure heart rate variability, started to look at heart rate while I was sleeping, heart rate while I was training, got my blood work from all my doctors and was reading medical journals to try to figure stuff out. Like, I was deep, deep, deep into this stuff. Like, I was a weird kid. I stood out, and while everyone else was reading comic books, I was reading medical journals. While everybody else was playing video games, I was analyzing data. And so it was just a big obsession of mine that ultimately led to when I finally stepped foot into my first university and college course down here in the States. It came down on a hockey scholarship. It just resonated so heavily, and I felt like I had been doing this for years. If you think about it, from the ages of 13 through 18, I'd already been deep into it for 5 years before I even stepped foot in a college classroom. And so came down to the States, got a double undergraduate degree in exercise science and nutrition, and went and got my master's degree in exercise physiology with a concentration in sports performance, and then did my postgraduate doctoral work in heart rate variability and sleep science, paired with a degree in massage therapy. And so really just looking at health holistically allowed me to really understand the body in a different way and start to be able to call out some of the nuances and misconceptions and what I call today a lot of bold-faced lies that exist in in this space and industry of health and wellness.
Did you feel the Lord leading you through that period, from the age of 10 or 12 until your early 20s and going to college? And
It's
so what did that look like?
It's a great question. I look back on this time, and I'll get open and vulnerable in this. I was always somebody who is mission driven and pulling the track sometimes faster than God was laying it down. And I wanted things so badly. For example, in my hockey career, I just wanted to play. Like, I wanted to be in the NHL. That was my goal. And I think I played for 4 junior teams over the course of a 3-year period, just because I've put myself into positions, teams that I should have never put myself in. For an example, I left home at 17 and went to go try out for a team. And the coach right at the onset said, "Hey, we don't have a roster spot for you. But we love your work ethic. We love everything you're doing. You can be a third goaltender and really challenge for a starting opportunity." And so I was like, "Yeah, I'm going to do it. I'm going to knock everybody out. I'm going to be in this space." And when in actuality, it was just a lot of lip service to keep me there. And it would have probably been better to go home and to develop and continue to play and actually get reps. And so halfway through that year, I got bored and frustrated from actually not getting to play. And so I went to a different team. And so that was kind of the theme that I saw through this time. But when you ask your question, Brant, of were you being led through this, it was my hockey career that I was wanting to be God ordained and God blessed,
Hmm.
but it was my passion and understanding in the health space
Yeah.
that was actually being blessed and touched and continuing to be developed. And um,
Were there some course corrections over time? And it sounded like you kind of had a couple of those, right? Certain were.
Totally,
Yeah.
100%. Like the if you think about it, coming back, like the last team that I ultimately played for in Cornwall, before coming down on a hockey scholarship, it was just a very blessed place for me. Not only getting to play, but also that's where I met one of my mentors. But my mentor was not in the hockey space; it was in the health and performance
Yeah.
space, and
Right.
um, was just able to speak life into me, was able to help develop me, able to help me get reps in really understanding this health and performance industry. And then coming down to the US, to be honest with you, on the school that I came to down here in Massachusetts, just uh, again, wasn't playing a whole ton when it comes to hockey, but was able to have two mentors again that just saw this young, passionate, intelligent individual and took them under their wings, and
Poured
we were
into
doing,
you. Yeah.
yeah, just poured
Yeah.
into me. We were doing master's degree studies as an undergraduate, like just really cool things that are not typically available to people. And they were leading the field when it came to cellular optimization and a lot of these deep internal metrics like heart rate variability and coordination with sleep quality. And so all of these things that you look back on and just go, man, just God had this path for me. And as much as I wanted them to be blessed in the realm of hockey to go to the NHL as a player, he had different plans.
Yeah.
And the moment that I surrendered to that and really accepted that was the moment that things began to flourish again.
Sometimes discernment takes some time.
You know what? And I think that, to be honest with you, has been the biggest learning path for me from 25 to 35, was learning what that discernment actually meant.
Yeah.
Rich Wilkerson says all the time that spiritual maturity is the shortening of time between hearing God's voice and taking action. And
I
and
love,
I
repeat that. That's a good one.
Yeah, the definition of spiritual maturity is shortening the length of time between hearing God's voice and taking action. And so for me, it was I would say that's been the biggest growth over the last 10 years. And but also I think the biggest reason for the success and the guidelines of what we've been able to create and build that is so different when it comes to the marketplace, and why we get so many different results and why it resonates with people differently, because it is different. It's not something that I created. It's something that God has just poured truth into.
Yeah.
And when you can establish something from this level of uniqueness, I think it gives you an unfair advantage to anybody else doing business or life without that level of discernment and hearing God.
What were those first jobs you took out of college after you finished your education down in the States?
Yeah, so as I finished, my first opportunity was with the Columbus Blue Jackets. I was an intern with them, and I really got an opportunity to help shape an organization and how they used data to drive performance and health for their athletes. And that really kind of put me on the map a little bit, because again, you have to think about it as a 23-year-old, 24-year-old. You're having an impact on an industry, but also for the people who are owning those roles, they're 35 to 50. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
just a very young man coming in, and
And with a
I
lot of
learned
new ideas too, right? I mean, you
a
kind of
lot of
came
new
with a,
ideas,
yeah.
a lot of new ideas, a lot of things that were very contrarian at the time, a lot of things that were very unproven and unstudied. And again, looking back on it, I learned so much about leadership. I learned so much about communication. And looking back on it, I'm like, man, if only you knew what you know now, I would have approached
That's a
many
recurring theme,
situations.
Justin.
I know I would have approached many situations differently. But I think again, God has you in those roles and has you go through those things for a reason, so that you can develop into the leader that you are today. And I wouldn't have been equipped to run the company and the business that I have today, because I wasn't the leader that I am today. I wasn't the communicator I am today. I wasn't um, quite frankly, the man of God that I am today. And so these are the things that I needed to learn. I needed to mature. I needed to develop in order to really step into the true calling, mission, and vision of what God had for me, not what I've had for myself. And which also propels me forward, going from Columbus into Miami of Ohio, where I was the director of performance for the hockey program there. Had great success. From there, went and did some consulting work with the Washington Capitals, and then from there went full time with the Anaheim Ducks. And that was really my journey through, and just saw some like really powerful things that were happening, but was also able to make some really great changes in the industry, and using data to drive performance, using data to drive health, using data to drive personalization. Because when I got there, everybody trained the same, everybody supplemented the same, everybody worked out the same, everybody practiced the same, everybody recovered the same, slept the same, traveled the same. But then everybody wondered why all the results were the
The
same.
same.
Like, why are we getting injured
Same
at the same
injury,
rate?
same hurt, same illness.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
Why are we getting hurt the same? Why are we getting injured the
right.
same? Why are we getting sick the same time? Why are we like fatiguing out at the same time? Well, if you want something different, you have to do something different. You have to
Yeah.
approach these guys as individuals. And we started to see again the lowest injury rates in the league, the lowest sickness rates in the league, the highest levels of energy and performance towards the end of the year. And these things started to stand out. And so you started to get this name and notoriety again. And this is where it really kind of clicked for me, because in 2019, again, I was extremely fit, working out, training, eating well, all the things that you're told to do. But I started to just get this massive brain fog, and I started to get these body aches I never had before, and I started to get this indigestion I never had before, and I started to get this inability to sleep that I never had before. I started to get this fatigue that I never had before.
Mm.
I was like, what is happening?
And this is
And
pre-COVID.
this is pre-COVID. Yep, this is pre-COVID. And I ended up going to uh, a couple of our docs. They ran blood tests, and I need everybody to hear that for a second. Blood tests. I'm going to give you the differentiator here in a second. But they ran blood tests, and they said, no, you're healthy. Everything's good. Like, everything looks great. You look great. You're the picture of health. You're like what we would want everybody to look like. And I'm like, guys, I don't feel well. Like, there's something
Mm.
wrong. And they're like, no, everything's good. Well, I went on a couple more months, and I went to a functional medicine specialist, and they ran some more tests, and they said, oh, this is what we see is wrong with you. And I bought $1,500 worth of supplements and
Yeah.
took those for a couple weeks. And I was like, I'm starting to feel worse. Like, this is not okay. I went to a wedding with my wife, and we were working out in the hotel gym. It was a Thursday morning, and at the end of the workout, I passed out. Like, I don't
Wow.
remember anything from picking up the weight to ultimately waking up on the bed. And my wife goes, Justin, something's wrong. Like, you have to go get this looked at. And so on Monday, I ended up going to New York City, went to see a specialist. They did an endoscopy and a colonoscopy, and found 4 polyps the size of my thumb and in my colon, and an ulcer the size of a quarter in my stomach, all of them precancerous.
Wow.
And I'm 29 at the time.
Yeah.
And they go, I'm so sorry that like it took us this long to figure this out, but like if we hadn't done this, you wouldn't have seen your 35th birthday.
Mm.
And it really hit me, because it was at that moment that God spoke just so loudly and said, when are you going to stop serving the audience that you want to serve and start serving the audience that I called you to? And
Mm.
it took me back to that 11-year-old kid, where it was like, you're built to redeem the health of the world, not built to serve the NHL.
Right. Hockey
And
players. Yeah. Right.
and so that was so I heard that, and what do I immediately do? Well, I start to go into this identity piece of like, well, I'm nothing without the NHL. That's what gives me my credibility. That's what allows me to have an impact. And if I actually took a step back, it was just an ego thing. It was wanting to have this logo on my chest, wanting to do this for this one space. And it was after COVID that I was like, you know what, I need to obey. I need to step away because I need to figure out what this is all about. And for probably 8 months, it was a very dark space for me. I knew what God had put on my heart. I knew that there needed to be a revolution and a change in the health and wellness industry. I knew it needed to become more personalized. I knew it needed to become more preventable. I knew it needed to become more proactive. But I didn't know how to market it. I didn't know how to talk about it. I just knew how to do it. And it was focused around the contents of cellular testing, cellular micronutrient deficiency, and heart rate variability. And I'll
And
get
you've
into
done
those.
all that before, right? All of those types
That's
of tests
that's
and so
that's
forth.
everything that I was doing with these
Yeah,
NHL guys. That's how I was
right.
getting the results for these guys. And as I mentioned, I was doing this for them, but I had failed to do it for myself. And because I
Wow.
had failed to do it for myself, even though I was healthy by the standards of everybody else, no matter even though I was running marathons, even though I was racing and winning world championships, even though I was looking great, I wasn't healthy internally. There was a
Yeah,
disparity and a disintegration between how my body was feeling and operating internally and how I was looking externally. And so we have to realize that when you think about your health is not one dimensional. Your health is so multifactorial that we have to start looking at it from a holistic lens, but also having data to help run it, not based off feelings and emotions, but rather off of true data and convictions. And so these are the things that I knew we needed to do and talk about, but nobody understood heart rate variability. Nobody understood cellular deficiencies. I would talk and people would go like, yeah, that sounds like it's for professional athletes because that's where I came from.
right.
And so for 8 months, I didn't have a job. For 8 months, I was literally just waking up every single morning, praying, begging, to be honest with you, for a breakthrough, and nothing was happening. I would try to go again. This is Justin pulling the cart, right? Just not being denied. I would go and try to convince people to work with me. Hey, come on, like just allow me to impact your life. Allow me to come and like just educate you on this. Allow me to come and step in and show you what this is all about. And they were like, no, I'm good. Like I've got a personal trainer, but I'm not a personal trainer. Like this is so much different. No, I've got a nutritionist. No, I'm not a nutritionist. That's not what we do. It's so much more than that. And then they're like, I got a functional doctor. No, stay away from them. Like that's not what we do. We can help you in a different way. And so I was just so frustrated.
Right.
And I became, to be honest with you, I became not fun to be around. My wife took a lot of my frustration and took a lot of my anger, and God bless her for just being so patient, so kind, and so loving. To be honest with you, the same patience and love that my parents showed me as a young boy. And it was July of 2021, and I was in a kayak, and my wife and I had a little bit of an argument, a fight earlier that day, and she goes, Justin, just go be with God, go sit in the kayak because you have to figure out what's going on here. And I was like, I don't need a kayak. I need to figure out what to do for my life. And she's like, you're not going to find it here. Just go out in the kayak. And so I reluctantly went and grabbed the kayak and went paddled. And I can't describe this any other way, Brant, than sitting in the kayak, looking forward, and it was almost like there was a sheet of glass and there was a pinhole that had light shining through it.
Mm.
And I leaned forward, like actually leaned forward, where in the past I may have sat back, grabbed my phone, distracted myself. And as I leaned forward, it was almost like it was a spider web cracking of the glass, and then it shattered and fell. And I had this download that I've never experienced before. And I just started to write. I started to write in my phone and my notes. And I was out there for about an hour and a half. I came back in, I copied and pasted everything I wrote. I sent it to myself in an email. I took it from there, put it in a Word doc, printed the Word doc. The Word doc was 23 pages, and it was the blueprint or the business manifesto of Own It, of what our
Alone.
business is
Yeah.
today. And I showed Elise and my wife, and she goes, Justin, this is incredible. Where did you get this from? I said, I didn't write this. Like, I don't even know. Like, this was a pure
Because you
download.
told me to go out in the kayak, dear.
Right. That's right. Don't send me in the kayak. We're gonna come back with a different answer or a different thing every single time. But that was it, and that was the start of Own It. And so,
Now, where does
um,
the name come from? Was that part of the revelation as you peeked through that pinhole?
that's such a great question. I don't know if anybody's ever asked me that question on a podcast before, but Own It comes from the concept of during this 8 month period, my wife would constantly say to me, because again, I had moments where I was just so angry and so upset and bitter, and a lot of times with God, to be honest with you.
Hmm.
And she would constantly say to me, Justin, just take this moment and own it. Just take this moment and like stop
Mm.
blaming people, stop pushing it off on other people, stop trying to seek some semblance of distraction. Take your head out of the sand and own it. Own this moment of where you're at. And I was like, man, that is just so good for what we need to do with our health is we need to take ownership of it. So many of us are just pushing off our health on our doctors or our clinicians or our functional specialists or our trainers, or they're pushing the responsibility off on other people rather than taking ownership. And I define
Ah,
ownership as the intersection point of accountability and responsibility. The moment that you say, hey, I want to learn, I want to educate myself, and I want to empower myself with the information necessary that I know exactly what's happening inside of my body. I don't need to be the expert, but I'm the one who's learning and understanding it to a level in which I can now make more personalized and more empowered choices and decisions on how I'm acting every single day. And I'm going to put an accountability measure in place with a person, place, or a thing so that ultimately I can now make sure that what I'm doing for myself is the best thing to pull me forward to realize my God given potential.
love it. And Onus mission is has been your mission since the age of 11, right? Redeeming the health of the world.
Yeah.
And now you're doing it broadly, right? I mean, how many folks are you touching now? I think you mentioned when we spoke the other day about 50 employees now worldwide.
Yeah, so not quite 50, but we're at 40 employees
Yeah.
worldwide, and we're 100% completely virtual, and so that allows us to have, again, kind of assemble the best team possible. Every single one of our team members is so wildly credentialed and so educated and so experienced, whether that's the ex-performance director for the New York Giants to the ex-performance specialist for Richard Branson, like you name it. Like we've just got some amazing talent on our team because they bought and fell in love with the mission, which is to redeem the health of the world through educating, equipping, and empowering people to take ownership of their health in a personalized way so they can realize their God given potential. And they just saw the way that we used data, they saw the way we used testing, they saw the way we used technology, and they saw the way we used coaching to build this system that's different than anything else you're doing out there. And it really created the massive change.
And you've done something so rare, which I find so unique and again, so humble. You're not the CEO. You founded this, but you brought in your wonderful wife, and she's actually the CEO of the organization, correct?
Yes. And so that was, to be honest with you, that again, it goes back to what I said at the very beginning was this isn't my business, this is God's business.
Yeah,
And
stewardship.
for me, how can I steward this thing well? And I knew that I was not the business guy. At
Mm,
the time, my wife was the vice president of Christian Louboutin, a fashion shoe company based in New York City. And she just knew how to build teams. She knew how to build systems. She knew how to scale processes. And I didn't know any of those things. Like I was
right.
just, I'm an idea guy. I'm a visionary. I'm passionate, and I'm just gonna work hard to get things done. But she's like, no, let's work efficiently, let's work smart, let's build systems that we can scale, that we can do this. And to be honest with you, every mentor that we had, let me back up. So about 3 months into this business, she started to see what was happening, started to see the traction that was coming, and she said, what would you think if I came on board and helped and was the CEO
Mm,
of the company? I was like, yes, done. Like the Lord spoke and said, like, I've always known that my wife and I would do business together because we're so different. We're so
yeah.
different in our skill sets. And bringing her into the business and empowering her that way has just been the biggest gift of my life. And to be honest, the thing that I've had to learn, and I think the way that God has continued to bless this venture that we're on, not only is it rooted in his anointing, but also I've had to learn how to be a better husband. I've had to learn how to prioritize our marriage and our relationship over the business, which for me originally was very hard because I'm a pusher, I'm a charger, I'm a doer, and wanting to see scale, wanting to see growth, but knowing that, hey, when I bless my wife, when I show her that she has me as a husband, when I can support her, when I can love her, when I can give her the time, attention necessary as a husband, then all of a sudden we take massive leaps and bounds. For me as a founder, from getting on stages to speaking to writing books to um, uh, marketing to you name it, like things just started to work. And that was, I think, the biggest lesson that I learned in that, as she continued to kind of come over and work with us. And as we worked together, we brought in some mentors that could actually help take us through. And I cannot tell you, Brant, how many people, I can probably say there's probably 10 plus people that said, you can't do coaching, you can't do testing, you can't do technology, and you can't do it all at the same time. You have to choose one. And I said, that's not how the system works. That's not how, like, no, that's what everybody else does. You're telling me you want to be a testing company? Great. You can't do cellular testing, just do blood testing. Well, there's a big difference. I know what blood testing is. Blood testing is looking at what's broken. That's what our medical system does.
Right.
You look at a blood panel that comes back, you got high cholesterol, you got high kidney enzymes, you got high liver enzymes, you got low red blood cell count, whatever it might be. It's looking at what's broken. And so once you look at what's broken, why do we look at what's broken? So that we can either get you scheduled for surgery, we can either get you scheduled for some level of prescription, we can give you some, put you into the medical system in some way, shape, or form. We're looking for what's broken, and we're masking or mirroring that as something that's personalized, but it's not. It's a general approach. It's not proactive. And so then you've got your health experts who say, hey, we're going to do a blood test on you. And now I'm going to give you 14 supplements. Well, those supplements aren't built for you. They're calling it customized and personalized, but it's just things off the shelf that they're putting into a shoebox and saying, hey, here you go. This is your solution.
Right.
Or they're giving you a PDF that they're saying, hey, this is personalized. This is your meal plan. This is what you need to eat. This is what you need to do from an exercise standpoint. Well, again, that's just put through an algorithm that's been able to be scaled. And that's what they're giving to you that, again, is not built for you, is not built based off what your lifestyle looks like, is not based on what you need and what you're required, is not built on what your priorities are today. And so these are the things that I was just like, the system is broken. And I was so just convicted on if we did not put cellular testing, which is looking at truly what you're dysfunctional in at the cellular level, what your body does not have in order to operate, pair that with heart rate variability, looking at how your body is adapting to stress and strain mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, and then personalizing your habits and behaviors that you're engaging in daily, so that we then as coaches can hold you accountable to that, both on the cognitive behavioral therapy side, where we're changing your thoughts and behaviors around why you're doing something, but then also on your strength and conditioning and nutrition side of how are you actually living and recovering. That's the solution that needs to be there. And that was how it was supposed to be operated. And we were told countless times, dozen times, you'll never be able to scale this. You'll never be able to operate this further than the two of you. And God just continued to say, just have patience, just have patience. And I mean, at the end of the day, he just goes, hey, hold my beer, watch this.
Justin, where can our listeners go and learn more about your system?
Yeah, so ownitcoaching.com is where they can go and find out more about this. If you want to go directly right to the cellular testing, ownittesting.com is where you can go and get started with that right away.
And you've had a new book that just came out. Where can we find out about that?
I do have a new book coming out. It's called The Power of Ownership: Redeem Your Health, Live Life by Design, and Break the Relentless Pursuit of Normal. And it's again, this is just a God download. One last quick story here, Brant. I know we have to wrap up, but as I was finishing this book and turning the manuscript into Wiley, I had a dream one night, and the Lord literally said, "That's not the book I asked you to write." And I woke up in the next morning and um, angry for the next 2 days. And I was like, I'm just going to turn it in anyways. And the dream would not go away. Every single night I heard the same thing. And so on a Friday, I cleared my calendar for the next week and I revamped the entire book. And I can't tell you how just anointed this is and how gifted this is. John Maxwell said it's the next level version of Atomic Habits that's personalized to you based on data. And I'm just like John Maxwell, John Gordon, like these people are just so behind it, which is just such a blessing. And you can find it at thepowerofownershipbook.com. And depending on when this comes out, you can get all the free bonuses that are in there as well with this, that I think is really just going to help you and empower you to take ownership of your health and ultimately change your life.
Awesome. We're just about out of time, but we have two last questions to ask for you. Tell us a little bit about your daily routine to, continue to walk with Christ.
It's so good. I wake up every single morning at 6 a.m. and I immediately go and get into a workout. And as soon as I get into that workout, I finish, I go into a sauna, and that's where I do my Bible study, Bible reading. I tried to do it the other way around, and it was preparing and posturing myself so that I could then have undistracted time with Christ. And there's 5 times throughout the day that I have intentional pauses. So my first one is when I step foot in the sauna. The second one is in the shower, asking him what he wants me to hear throughout the day. After that, third time is right around noon. I have a 5-minute pause and just reset. And then the fourth one is right after my work day before I go and sit down at dinner. I ask the Lord what he wants me to hear on how I can bless Elise throughout the evening. And then the last one is right before I go to bed. I've got a devotional that I do and finish with my prayer. So those are the 5 things that I do throughout the day that really kind of set me up to continue this walk in a deep way.
Love it. Last question is we ask all this of all our guests. What advice would you have for somebody, 10, 15 years younger than you that maybe is thinking about, the corner office someday, or perhaps being an entrepreneur like yourself? What kind of life advice would you give them?
I wish I would have learned this long ago, but the Lord wants you to be successful. The Lord wants you to win. The Lord has so much abundance set for you. He has so much greatness set for you. And if you were just willing to slow down and listen and ask the question, I ask myself 2 questions every single day. Lord, what is it that I am doing that I have failed to invite you into? And what is it that you're asking me to do that I have failed to pick up? Those are the 2 things that if I can be so clear on those each and every single day, then every single thing that I do, every single thing that I step into, every single thing that I move forward in, I'm going to be able to do in a very anointed way. And I've got this perfect life metric that I come back and like, what do I want people to know or hear or describe me as? And I want to be known as somebody who is a starter of what God asks, but a finisher of what God blesses. And if you're able to just stay attuned to those 2 questions that I mentioned, you're living in a world that you can't lose.
Justin Roethlingshoefer is redeeming the health of the world through one book, one keynote, one workshop, one business, and one person at a time. He's co-founder of Own It Coaching. Justin, thank you so much for sharing your journey into the corner office.
It's been a blessing. Thank you so much, Brant.
Thank you for listening to Into the Corner Office with Brant Hanley. We hope you enjoyed hearing our guest CEO story as much as we did. If you want to hear more CEOs reveal their journey into the corner office, please subscribe via iTunes and tell your friends and colleagues. For more information about Brant, Resource Options International, and the mighty middle market, visit www.goforroi.com. We look forward to having you join us for our next episode.